Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. I recently read an article on NBC News which stated that the suicide rate is rising fast for black youth. And in the article, it stated that the gap is narrowing between black and white youths as related to suicide, and people want to get down to the reason why. Now, I know the reason why because I have done my research on males and the issues that they're struggling with for my book, The Man Crisis. And as I was doing my research on the increase in suicides among men, I found that the reason that so many children are committing suicide and young men are committing suicide is because of the way they are raised in today's society. Because in today's society, most children are raised in primarily single mother households or households with a father who just is not really, he's there physically, but he's not there emotionally. And because that child, oftentimes because both parents work or the single parent works, usually they put their children in daycare. And it's that daycare environment that is leading to this rise in suicides among black youth, because that environment is a place where children are not getting their emotional needs met. Because when a child is very young, especially in their earliest years from 0 to 3 to 4 years, they really need to be at home with their mother. Because when they are at home with their mother, that's when they learn how to bond with a mother, and they learn how to bond with a father. Unfortunately, when you put a child in childcare, what happens is you get your child being placed with a caretaker, and in the daycare environment, because the wages are so low, the caretakers wind up turning over every 3 to 6 months. So every time a child looks to bond with someone, they usually wind up being ripped away from that person they were starting to form a connection with, and this really does damage to them and their mental development, their emotional development. And because there is no mother there to nurture this child and help them develop and grow, this is what makes the child start to feel insecure in a lot of cases. And it also starts to make the child feel very hopeless because they feel like they have no sense of security. And because they feel like they have no sense of security, this really is the thing that destroys that child's confidence, and it destroys that child's self-esteem. However, many of your feminists out here, they believe that you can have a child being raised by someone like a daycare caretaker, and it's not going to hurt their development. However, it's clear from what I've learned from family members who worked in education that it does hurt a child's development when they are placed in daycare at an extremely young age. Like some kids are just a couple of weeks old, and they're placed in this daycare environment. And again, this really hurts the child's development because the child, again, it feels like there is nobody they can bond with. It feels like there's nobody they can connect with. And that makes the child feel like they aren't going to be secure in getting their needs met. And because those children feel like they have nobody that will meet their needs, they start to feel alone. They start to feel empty. They start to feel abandoned. And this is the thing that makes those children, as they grow older, start to feel hopeless. And it's that hopelessness that drives these children to commit suicide because they feel like there is nothing to live for because no one really cares for them by meeting their emotional needs. So that's why they go and take their lives, especially if they're in environments where they're winding up having to deal with things like bullying, harassment, and cyberbullying. Because I remember reading one case where a young boy, he was being bullied on Facebook and he took his life. And I remember reading one case where a young girl took her life, and these children were under 10 years old, and they took their lives because there was nobody in the home to give them guidance, nobody there to give them support, and nobody there to meet their emotional needs, because so many parents these days, they are so caught up in making money on these jobs that they're not thinking about what their children need at home or being there for their children at home, because that's something that we have programmed people to believe. Oh, you can just go out here and work and give kids what they physically want, like iPads, smartphones, and all sorts of big screen TVs. But what kids really want is to see their parents at 3 o'clock, see their when the school lets out, or see their mother, when they have an issue and have something to talk about. Because that type of meeting those emotional needs, that really helps with a child's emotional security, and it makes the child feel like there is somebody who's going to be there that cares for them, and there will be somebody there to meet their emotional needs. Unfortunately, because we have so many women in the workforce working, they're more focused on meeting a child's economic needs. And because they're focused on those economic needs, these children feel, again, alone, they feel abandoned, and they have no connection to other people. And because they don't have a connection to other people, whenever there is an issue in their life, they feel like there is nobody they can turn to, nobody they can go to for support, nobody they can go to for guidance, because everybody is so caught up in working on a job that they're not thinking about the job of taking care of these children. And that's why so many children are committing suicide these days, because they feel like there is nobody there for them. And you have people saying, oh, we need to get to the bottom, the reason why. But they really are being disingenuous, because if we got down to the bottom of the reason why, it means we have to turn to these feminists and tell them that their ideology is completely wrong. And we have to turn to many of these mothers and tell them that they have to get out of the workforce and get back into the home, especially for children from the ages of 0 to 5 years, because children from the ages of 0 to 5 years especially need their mother at home in order to get a healthy development and in order to develop properly so that they can get their emotional needs met and have that emotional security. And they need their father at home in the evenings so that they can get a sense of structure and get that sense of security. So we need to start talking about the complete collapse of the American family, but most people don't want to talk about that collapse of the American family and the family unit, because that means, again, we have to turn to this feminist and tell her her ideology is wrong, and we have to turn to many of these working women out here and tell them that they're going to have to leave these jobs and come back into the home if you want to raise healthy, functional children who will be able to navigate a course in life. Because the daycare center does not provide an environment where children can learn the life skills that they need in order to survive. These are only things that a mother can teach and provide, and these are only things that these intangibles can only be taught by a mother, because she is the only one who can bond with that child and give that child that sense of emotional security. These replacement caretakers that they have put in place at daycare centers, they are not equipped to meet a child's emotional needs. Yes, they can watch children temporarily, but the problem is this watching children temporarily is leading to permanent damage to their development. Because in order for a child to develop, they need to have a stable home environment. They need a mother in the home. They need a mother to care for them and meet their short-term emotional needs, letting them know that there is going to be a mother there who will be there whenever they have an issue, whenever they have a problem, whenever they want to talk about something, or whether they need to be taught something or to be taught to overcome certain fears. They need a mother there in the home. Unfortunately, there is no mother in the home because most American women these days are working. And because so many American women are working these days, that's what's leading to so many children going out here and committing suicide, because they feel like they have nothing to live for, because there is nobody there to be there for them and help them with the problems they are having in their lives. And because they feel like they have no options for help, what they're doing is taking their lives, because they feel the release of death is better than dealing with a life filled with nobody there for them and being alone. And this is the big problem no one wants to talk about, because again, it means we have to take a long critical look at our women, and it means taking a long critical look at women and holding them accountable for the way we are raising children. And again, nobody wants to do that because corporate America continues to make lots of money by having women primarily in the workforce and then being these consumers who spend all of this money. Unfortunately, we are not profiting because we are raising multiple generations of dysfunctional adults, and these dysfunctional adults are winding up falling apart. And what's even scarier now about this man crisis now it's becoming a child crisis, because these children, because they are not being raised and prepared, they are short-circuiting and malfunctioning, just like the 2 to 3 generations of males out here. And this is, again, a disturbing trend that is showing us that this crisis is getting worse instead of better, and it's actually starting to accelerate, because when you have children starting to commit suicide, like they're saying for black youth, this is a sign that things are getting worse, because again, this is all ties into the man crisis, and it ties into the way we are raising children in this country, the way we are raising children in this country with these single mother households, the lack of a father, the lack of a stable family unit. This is doing damage to our society. Unfortunately, people are so caught up in having the woman outside of into the workforce as a consumer, they can't see how it's producing extremely dysfunctional children who now believe taking their life is better than living to grow up to become a deeply troubled adult. If you'd like to learn more about why so many young children and young men are taking their lives, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle formats. That book will explain to you why so many young men and young children are taking their lives, why so many children and young men are struggling out here, and why so many kids feel like they have nothing to live for, and why so many people are struggling to navigate a course in this life. And if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, and my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.